back again. Figured I was already here doing this, so I might as well do another one. And I noticed this before when I was more of a blogger. I don't really like videos. I like watching them, and I like the video YouTube community. That's why I'm doing them, so that I can be friends with all the cool kids. And so there's just one of you missing, as far as I know. Just one of you. And I need you to start following me. But I might as well have some content, right? So let's learn a little bit about Aniata. I'm going to try to be fast, and we'll give you the hut tour at another time. Girls, we're rolling. The girls are playing. They're very excited about the new addition, who you saw maybe on the last video. Calyx, my fairy. I will talk about her backstory. I want to make one. All right, for now we're going to read about Aniata's backstory. It's not Shakespeare, okay? It's really just like a book report because I think her story is going to be told in photos and little snippets of dialogue between her and her future boyfriend who'll be here someday. End of the month, maybe? God, I hope so. Anyway, she's from a tribe called the Kene. So, the Kene tribe numbers 62, and their village lies in the fertile foothills of a small mountain range. It is inland with a large river that cuts through the mountain and runs to the west of the village. Each year, the river retracts to less than half its size when the winter freezes everything further north. Then when spring arrives, the river returns, bringing plants, rocks, and carcasses from upstream. During the spring, the Kene tribe air out their huts and celebrate new life. This was the time for matings, welcoming new babies, and scheduling the first big hunt of the season. Women with children and the elderly did most of the gathering. Young women and most able-bodied men did most of the hunting. Food was cooked and shared communally. Hides were given to the hunter who could claim the kill, and hides could be traded for tools, weapons, baskets, a food specialty, etc. The Kene did not have contact with any other tribes. Any improvements made in the way they do things has come by chance or luck, as they do no trading. They deeply enjoy the arts and have nightly shows. Musicians, dancers, storytellers, they all enjoy high status and work with the village shaman for the joy and mental health of the Kene. The village healer, a fine dancer, mated the master musician. This meant they both had close ties to the village shaman. This made the match harmonious and gave high status to their two daughters, Aniata and Nita. Now, Nita is, that was back when her name was Kala. I think Aniata and Nita are just a little too similar. So, I don't know if she'll ever exist in doll form, so I guess it doesn't matter right now. As the tribal leader had no female children and the shaman was childless, Aniata had the highest status of any unmated woman. She was the natural choice to wed the son of the leader. Among the young people of lower status, couples paired off out of love, but among people with high status, marriages were usually arranged by their parents. If they were lucky, like Kala's parents, love would grow from the union. Aniata doubted such luck would befall her match with Daka. In truth, he was not the man they would have chosen for Aniata. There was one of the craftsmen, Ebo, who would suit her temperament a lot better, but it would have been foolish to refuse the chief, to think of the status Aniata's children would have. Daka was handsome, a brave hunter, and a good performer if he chose to dance, which was rare, but to Aniata he was stern, traditional, cold, and boring. They had shared furs once or twice, but his lovemaking was a lot like his personality. Aniata wanted adventure. I've got to edit this notebook. Wanted adventure. The leader's wife could not go on adventures. Aniata knew there were more humans out there somewhere, but as the leader's wife, she'd be expected to bear a future leader. She wouldn't be able to hunt anymore. She'd have to do dull things like organizing meals and festivals, settling squabbles among the women. Any other woman would have been delighted, but not Aniata. She was restless even as a child. At the last minute, she just couldn't go through with it. But it would be a shame, it would shame her family to refuse Daka. It would humiliate him and the chief. It would go against their entire way of life. No mere girl had ever refused such an offer of betrothal. In Daka's defense, he probably hadn't planned this at all. There were not many women in his class to choose from. So Aniata left home. She had left home before, just to be alone, but she always planned to return. She just wanted to get away from tribal life and the burden of being a woman in that tribe. But this time, she was going for good. She packed her things, kissed her sleeping sister, stared at her parents for a long time, then walked east with no plan but adventure, no destination but the road. At the same time, much farther north, a landslide shifted the course of the river sharply east, where it destroyed the entire Kene tribe. Okay, so don't be too heartbroken. The Kene, which Aniata does not know yet, are sort of minor deities. She is, or will be, a river goddess, but she doesn't actually know that. So the river destroying the village is her going off course, and each of them represents some part of nature. So, you know, no one really died. Like the goddess of the rock formation that looks special was just pushed downstream. She's just being worshipped by a different set of humans. So don't cry for them, Argentina. The truth is they're just deities and they're fine. As long as someone is there to worship them, they exist. You know what I love about her? I know she's like totally thin, but she's got like a little belly, and it's just the cutest little thing. I love her. Anyway, I expected that she would be really kind of vain, but she's not. She's just really modest, and I think Denali Wynn called her a powerhouse. She is. She's a powerhouse. I wish her head would be powerful. Yeah, she's a hunter, and she provides for herself. She's super tough, and she don't need no stinking man. So let's continue. Okay, so until the age of 30, the young Kene live as normal humans. Before maturity, they live in peaceful bliss, hunting, growing, falling in love, being born, and sometimes dying. But around the time they reach 30, they achieve self-awareness. The young person would suddenly fall ill, feeling symptoms similar to a flu. Weakness, headaches, loss of appetite. They took to their beds and slept for 3 days. As they slept, they were guarded by the elders, who had experienced the same thing. The elders would be chanting and maybe probably smudging them with some sage or whatever incense might have been native to the region, until they awoke. So, blah, 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 blah. When they awoke, they knew who they were at last. They knew why they never saw humans. They were in a different place. They could look in on humans, accept their offerings, grant their desires. They finally felt like themselves, like a missing piece was finally in place. There was, forget that. The very young could not be trusted with the responsibility of being demigods, and the Kene were not immortal, though they lived much longer than humans, sometimes hundreds and hundreds of years longer. After the mature Kene wake, they instinctively head to the mountain. And that's all I wrote. But the mountain, we don't really know what it is yet, but Calyx knows because she is nosy and she flies all around and she knows all your business. So on the mountain, basically they're going to be receiving some kind of training or maybe like a blessing from a higher deity. So for instance, a river goddess might I think her all water will probably be under the domain of a moon goddess. And oh, wouldn't that be a nice doll to have one day? We'll see. Hey, you're in my film. So, anyway, so that is Aniata. The name, really quick. I know I'm at like 9 minutes. So the name, I have an aunt. Okay, anyway. I was posting pictures of her on the BJD Addicts Facebook page. And a couple of people were like, oh, she looks like a Taino. And I was like, really? Wow, I didn't even think about that. Which is so fitting because I'm Haitian, as I might have mentioned. My husband's Puerto Rican. So both of our ancestors, especially his, maybe not mine. Mine is probably more African. Our ancestors possibly were Tainos. So it's kind of an amazing coincidence. So I contacted my aunt, and I had mentioned this before in the Ampakara video when she was talking about the character Aunt Charlemagne. that I have a kooky aunt who crochets and was sort of the black sheep of the family and has a boy's name, Henry. And she was always into just the kind of hidden part that my other relatives are not into. You know, she was the hippie. She went to Woodstock. She is the reader, the brainiac, the college grad, you know. And like me, is a hermit and doesn't really leave the house unless I have to. Anyway, so I emailed her. She's still not on Facebook as much as I'd like her to be. Anyway, I emailed her. I told her about Aniata. I showed her the hut, and her name was Kala at the time. So I was just like, I really need a name, and I know that my aunt would be into it because her email address is Anacaona, who is a Taino tribal chiefess. Anyway, so I asked her to name it, and she said immediately Aniata. She doesn't know why. She just felt it. And the way she phrased it, it sounds like a lot of BJD owners who just feel a story or feel a character, and so I felt really connected to it. So her name is Aniata, and the kids still call her Kala because it's much easier to say.
Hi, Kala.
Her name's not Kala. All right, guys. I think that's it for now. Let's take a look at this beauty. By the way, I don't think I will ever buy a single jointed knee again. Get out of here. It's just really hard. She's constantly popping out of place. Can you see her teeth? You see how it looks like she's got dentures coming out? That's got to be modified, and I'm scared. I do not know if I know how to do that. But I love her. Beat it. I love her. I love her body. I love the way she poses. She's awesome. So anyway, I'm almost at 12 minutes, so I'm sorry. Thanks guys for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon. Maybe with a prompt or a tag or something. Bye.